Hello there, and thank you for choosing Citizen TV on this second day of the year. Happy New Year again, and thank you for choosing Citizen TV. And tonight we'll be crossing over to South Sea, where there has been that story that is developing about the building that collapsed. We'll be taking you live there to witness what is happening, the search and rescue efforts that have been going on for more than 10 hours. But first, here are the top stories tonight.
Jana saa 12 ametoka kwangu, ameenda kazi. Tangu saa hiyo nimesikia jana saa 10 ameangukia nyumba.
Trapped under rubble, search and rescue efforts for 4 people as building collapses in Nairobi's South Sea estate.
The building was supposed to go 12 floors. The owner or the contractor or the supervising engineers decided to take it to 14 floors.
Authorized to build 12 floors, collapsed at 14 floors. How the owner, contractor and engineers behind collapsed building violated regulations.
Hii imetukalia. Hii imekuwa ngumu zaidi. Imekuwa ngumu. Si vitabu, si uniform, bag, kila kitu iko juu.
High demand, high prices. Parents flock school uniform shops and bookstores ahead of school reopening. Relief for parents. Government issues circular clarifying school fees amounts. My name is Sam Gituku, and our sign language interpreter is Yola Nzale. Now, it's been more than 10 hours since the search and rescue efforts commenced at the site of a collapsed building in South Sea. A multi-agency team has been coordinating the efforts to save the lives of 4 people believed to be under the rubble. Reports indicate that one of the victims had earlier on Friday made contact with his family but has been unreachable for several hours since the operation, and the operation continues as officers comb through the rubble. A building that is said to that was to be constructed until 16 floors. Our reporter Melita Oletenge is at the scene and now joins us. Melita, if you can hear me, we see the operation continuing. What would you say is the progress so far?
Well, good evening to you, Sam. The pictures you're seeing on your screen are excavators that have pitched camp here since early morning, trying to excavate the rubble and move the debris that is remaining of what was a 16-story building. That is what is the latest from the National Construction Authority through the director, Executive Director Maurice Akech, who has informed Citizen TV not so long ago that this building had reached 16-story and not 14-story, some or 15, as earlier reported by the Nairobi County government. And what you're seeing behind me is a multi-agency approach in trying to excavate the rubble and the debris, trying to get to 4 people that are feared to be trapped inside this this building that collapsed rather. And this building collapsed at 4:05 a.m. From the reports that we are getting, and as per the CCTV footage that we gathered from nearby vicinity. And from eyewitnesses' reports, they are saying that the moment this building went down, they first had some sort of a rumble and shaking, and then as the people who are now feared to be trapped inside were trying to get away, unfortunately they couldn't get away in time, and now the rescue operation is ongoing to try and get to the 4 people that are feared trapped inside. Sam, we've managed to speak to a number of families here who are family members to the 4 people who are feared trapped inside, and they're saying that up to until 12 p.m. In the afternoon, they were able to communicate with one person who's their family member, and he was actually calling using their phone, and he was saying, please hurry and try and get us out of here, but they lost contact about 1 p.m. and they are saying that they haven't been able to speak to them since. Some adjacent to the building that went down is another building that has so many stories as well, but the structural integrity of that building has also been affected as a result of the collapsed building, and you can see gaping holes from here, and as well as cracks that have come out, and there have been also questions that have arisen from that particular building, and they are asking, the residents are now asking, they are concerned, and they are asking which way forward from here now, because they don't know whether that building is also going to come down. But we have a multi-agency team here working around the clock to try and get to the 4 people feared trapped inside, and of course residents gathered here trying to witness. And of course you can also feel just how much the emotions here are palpable, because these are people who are well known in the estate, and so the residents here are actually emotional as to what has just happened behind me, Sam.
Melita, we hear you say that the neighboring buildings have also been affected, but as you look at the operation there, how are they measuring progress and the possibilities of rescuing the 4?
Well, Sam, the search and rescue operation, which is the priority here, has been progressive from the moment we got here. We understand that the excavators and the rescue team and the disaster management team here arrived here from as early as 10 to 11 a.m. and they have been pitching camp. It has been progressive. However, families here, gathered here, especially those ones that are related to the people trapped inside, are saying that how they wish the government would have more hands on deck because they feel like since they had communication with those inside, they feel like if they were there was a more fast approach to try and remove the rubble, then they would have higher chances of at least reconnecting with their loved ones. And so they're urging the government to at least have more hands on deck. But so far we have seen progress in terms of removing the debris that has now come down, and we have seen the excavators removing metals as well. They are using quite a strategic approach, Sam, because we've seen they've started from this is what now should have been the top floor, and they're now moving progressively towards the other floors. And first we've seen the excavators trying to drill the holes through the rubble, and before we see now the caterpillar trying to carry all the rubble to the vehicles that are waiting. So I can say it has been a progressive initiative or work that we are witnessing here, Sam.
Much Melita Oletege speaking to us from South Sea at the site of that collapsed building. And of course you stay with that story to look at the progress and of course the delicacy, or how delicate this exercise is in trying to, as much as possible, save the 4. At the same time, the 15-story building which collapsed today in South Sea area in Nairobi had been flagged at least 3 times by the Nairobi City County enforcement teams after the developer extended its construction beyond the approved floors. The National Construction Authority has also revealed that the project was non-compliant at the time of the collapse. The developer, Abian Consulting Limited, license had expired. Despite the warnings and arrests, the owner of the building is said to have carried on with the construction with impunity until early morning Friday, when it collapsed with at least 4 people buried in the debris.
5:05 a.m. CCTV footage captures 2 vehicles parked near the collapsed building. A man, now identified as Gideon, is seen walking, possibly to relieve himself. But within 3 seconds, he appears to attempt to flee. He falls just as the building collapses. Another individual is seen trying to escape the scene of the incident. 4 minutes later, another burst of rubble is visible. The driver of one of the vehicles was rushed to hospital following the incident.
As residents of South Sea, they have written more than 43 letters to the county government, but there's no been good response.
Inside the building were 2 security guards. Their families from the neighboring Mukuru Kwanjenga area are demanding answers.
Mimi mama kijana jana saa 12 ametoka kwangu, ameenda kazi. Tangu saa hiyo nimesikia jana saa 10 ameangukia nyumba. Sijaona tangu saa hiyo.
Unaitwa nani kijana?
Ali Edin.
Tunataka tupate hiyo mwili tuzike kwa dini yetu kwa Muislamu. Tafadhali ni serikali mali tuko, tusaidieni tutoeni hiyo mwili.
Tangu saa 10 nyumba iliyoanguka mpaka saa hii hakuna respondents vizuri ambao inaweza ondoa hizi mawe ya kuokoa maisha ya watu, hatuoni.
Blame is now being directed at Nairobi County planning officials, with Public Service, Human Capital Development and Special Programs Cabinet Secretary Geoffrey Ruku stating that there were gross violations of construction laws.
Proper investigations are ongoing to know who are culpable in the construction of the building, and once we have evidence as far as that is concerned, all those involved will be arrested.
Buildings are just coming up without any public participations, without any residents. Tunapata tu nyumba gari imeingia inachimbwa.
We have buildings that started just less than a year ago. People are already living inside them, which is causing a disaster. And we'd even raised this with the residents, and we say that this could just be the beginning.
A building adjacent to the collapsed one showed signs of structural instability during the rescue mission, forcing a temporary halt to rescue operations.
Now, this is the latest building collapse in Nairobi. As it may appear, government officials have confirmed that, like before, these buildings collapsed because of negligence, leading to the collapse of many other buildings in Nairobi. Ode Francis, Citizen TV, South Sea, Nairobi.
And let's now get to the story that the National Construction Authority has revealed that the project was non-compliant at the time of the collapse. The developer, Abian Consulting Limited's license had expired. Despite the warnings and arrests, the owner of the building is said to have carried on with the construction with impunity until early morning Friday, when it collapsed with at least 4 people buried in the debris. Emmanuel Toh reports.
In a statement issued after the collapse of the 15-floor story building in South Sea area, the Nairobi County Government Urban Planning Department revealed that the construction was flagged in May, July and December 2025, but the developer went on unperturbed with impunity. In the document seen by Citizen TV, the county directed the contractor to stop further development forthwith and resubmit plans for re-evaluation of the project, and was given 14 days to comply. The building collapsed Friday morning when the construction was reportedly on the 16th floor, according to the National Construction Authority. The Nairobi County statement puts it at 15th floor and the public services at the 14th floor at the time of collapse.
The building was supposed to go 12 floors. The owner or the contractor or the supervising engineers decided to take it to 14 floors.
According to police records, 3 persons working at the site, Farah Hassan Jakub, Abdi Aziz Hassan Jakub, and Wycliffe Omondi Onyango, were arrested in July 2025, but were released on a 20,000 cash bail a few days later. The National Construction Authority confirms that the project was non-compliant, announcing that the investigation to get to the bottom of the collapse was underway. NCA also revealed that the developer, Abian Consulting Limited's annual practicing license, awarded on the 1st of August 2023, expired on the 31st of July 2024.
We are calling upon all those who are doing construction of different buildings, not only in this area of Nairobi, but in the entire city and every corner of the country, to follow the laws which are supposed to be followed.
I think the main issue here in county government to pull up their socks. These things have not haijaanza leo. Sauti kupiga kelele juu ya whatever high rise is happening haijaanza leo. I think as the association have written countless letters to City Hall.
However, this is just one of the many incidents that stemmed from construction impunity. A similar situation befell residents of Huruma Estate in Nairobi in 2016 when a collapsed building left more than 37 people dead. Another building in Kiambu County also caved in on September 26, 2022, leaving a trail of death and destruction. And 2 years ago, a building also came tumbling down in Juja Road Estate, Kisii, leaving 4 fatalities. All these were avoidable incidents. Emmanuel Toh, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
And away from that, as the festive season winds down, parents of school-going children are confronting the stark reality of the increased cost of living, which has made back-to-school preparations burdensome. On Friday, last-minute shoppers flocked to uniform shops and bookshops across the country, armed with long lists of required items for the new academic year. Many parents feeling the financial strain as they scramble to meet escalating prices of uniforms, stationery and other essentials. Jimmy Mbogo interacted with some of the parents and filed this report.
So after 2.5 months of children being at home, it is time for back to schools. And for parents, it is not a cheap affair. The situation is particularly painful for families with multiple school-age children. In several uniform outlets, parents were confronted with the reality of the cost of uniform, even as other requirements such as boarding supplies piled on the cost to tens of thousands of shillings, forcing them to stretch their limited budgets just to comply with school rules.
Hii imetukalia, hii imekuwa ngumu zaidi, imekuwa ngumu. Si vitabu, si uniform, bags, kila kitu iko juu.
Na hali ya kutafuta imekuwa ngumu, hata hii Christmas sijasherekea kwa sababu nilikuwa nafikiria watoto vile wataingia shule.
Nafikiri kwa sasa nitajikakamua, hata ingawa niko na pesa kidogo, lakini itabidi nikope ndio niweze kununua zile vitu zinahitajika za shule.
Tumebidi unapunguza, unafinya budget at least itoshe, manake mtoto anataka kama sweta anataka pea 3, socks 4, nakuta sasa huwezi beba 4.
In our spot checks in different places across the country, traders have had different experiences on back-to-school sales, with some saying the situation has slightly improved compared to last year, citing better stock availability and steady customer flow, though they admit that the cost has been slightly elevated due to high cost of materials. However, others maintain that sales remain sluggish, blaming reduced household incomes and the high cost of living.
Parents are not coming as we expected. So possibly they may be looking for funds to buy those books. We are not sure.
The difference is about wanabagi sana. I think wana pesa. Ile price wananunua nayo iko chini sana. Wanalia sana kwa bei.
Shopping ya back to school iko juu sana. Watu wanafanya shopping ya back to school, which is so good. Wameanza mapema sana.
Parents have been urged not to wait until the last minute to do their shopping, as late purchases often expose them to higher prices, limited stocks and unnecessary pressure, especially as demand surges closer to school reopening dates. Jimmy Mbogo, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
At the same time, the Ministry of Education has released a new circular recommitting the current school fees policy in public secondary schools. The ministry says the fees guidelines that have been in existence since 2019 will remain, with day secondary schools required to charge no tuition fees, while boarding charges remain capped at a maximum of 53,000 shillings per annum. At the same time, Education Cabinet Secretary Migoso Gamba says the ministry has released school capitation of 44 billion shillings for the first term of the new year ahead of school's resumption on Monday next week. Emily Tibet reports.
After weeks of speculation and confusion over the 2026 school fee structure for public schools, coming at a time when the pioneer competency-based education class is transitioning to senior school, the Ministry of Education has moved to clear the air by releasing a new school fee circular. According to the circular, fees payable in public secondary schools, now referred to as senior schools under the competency-based education system, remain unchanged as prescribed in Kenya Gazette Notice number 1555 of 2015. The ministry says the Gazette Notice was issued following recommendations by the 2014 Task Force on Secondary School Fees, which conducted nationwide consultations on school fees and the affordability of secondary education. At the time of gazettement, parents in public day secondary schools were required to pay 9,374 per learner per year, while the government provided a subsidy of 12,870 per learner per year. With the full implementation of free day secondary education, the government enhanced its financial commitment by removing all tuition-related costs for parents in public day schools. Government capitation was accordingly increased to 22,244 per learner per year, a position the Ministry of Education says remains in force to date. Education Cabinet Secretary Migos Ogamba says the transition from the categorization of schools as national, extra-county, county and sub-county to pathway clusters C1 to C4 as recommended by the Presidential Working Party on Education Reform is purely structural and does not introduce any new fees. According to the CS, the levying of extra or unauthorized fees on parents and guardians is prohibited. He warns that such charges are irregular and illegal. The Ministry of Education has also reiterated that it's against the law for any institution to withhold Kenya National Examinations Council NEC certificates for any reason, including non-clearance of school fees. In a statement, Education Cabinet Secretary Migos Ogamba said the ministry has today released 44.24 billion in capitation funds for learners in all public basic education institutions. Speaking to Citizen TV, CS Ogamba also confirmed that the Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education KCSE results will be released by the 15th of January 2026. Emily Chebet, Citizen TV.
Away from education, 17 vehicles have been impounded in a multi-agency operation in Nairobi County during a New Year's safety inspection in 8 counties across the country. National Transport and Safety Authority officials and traffic officers who spearheaded the operation say most drivers were speeding, with others lacking valid inspection certificates. Meanwhile, the number of those who died in road accidents in the year 2025 was 3% more than those who perished in 2024. Gatete Njoroge reports.
Along Southern Bypass in Nairobi, NTSA officers and traffic officers camped along the busy stretch in their enhanced road safety operation. Those leaving the city using the route and those arriving back home from festivities. Those leaving the city using the route and those arriving back home from festivities, they were subjected to thorough checks. For those who followed the law, it was an easy pass. It was a different experience for 17 motorists who violated the traffic rules for lacking important documents like an inspection certificate, speeding, and driving a faulty vehicle. The officers removed the number plates before escorting the motorists to Karen police station, where they paid a fine and were booked to appear in court.
You need to have the right class for you to be on the road. As you can see, some of them actually have classes for small vehicles, yet they are driving heavy commercial vehicles. This is not allowed, and we are saying as NTSA and the National Police is, have the right class before you come on the road. We don't want to lose more lives, especially this festive season, and also when the schools are opening.
NTSA says the operation, which comes just days before schools resume for the first term, is also meant to ensure students' safety.
We want to ensure that all those school transport operators, they have the right papers, the right documents, and even the students they will be carrying, they need to be safe. Being safe means don't carry more than you are supposed to.
Failing to stop is a traffic violation. If you're unable to see a stop sign by the police, or you're even unable to see the spikes on the road, then sincerely we need to have you checked and we need to take you for refresher courses again.
According to NTSA, 4,458 Kenyans died on the road between January and December 15th, 2025. Compared to 4,311 who died within the same period in 2024. Gatete Njoroge, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
52-year-old Charles Osore, who killed a python after it attacked and killed his dog at Luoka Village, Madungu sublocation, Siaya County, is set to receive government compensation. The incident, which drew national attention, prompted a visit by a team from the Kenya Wildlife Service (KWS), led by Senior Warden for Kisumu and Siaya Counties, Grace Kariuki. KWS officials assured residents that the government will handle the matter and emphasized the importance of reporting wildlife incidents promptly. The team also pledged to conduct awareness sessions in the area to educate communities on how to respond to wildlife encounters.
Tumekuja tu kukusupport na kukuambia ya kwamba serikali tuko na tutafanya vile itahitajika ndiposa ukapate fidia. Leo tumekuja na form utajaza na tutasaidiana ndiposa wakati wa kufidia ukifika ufidiwe kama wale wengine. Ningeomba siku ingine ikitokea jambo kama hilo ama mnyama wa pori amepatikana mahali na ana threatened community, tutumie hotline kwa sababu tuko na station iko hapa Siaya.
Sina shida na serikali. Ni vile tu vile wamekuja hivi waone vile watanishughulikia ama kunisaidia, na ripoti yenye wametupatia vile tulikuwa tunakaa hapa hatukuwa tunajua hata hizi monkeys vile tunatusumbua. Kuna pahali penye tunaweza kupiga ripoti yetu, na tukiwapigia simu msiwe na kuchelewa, juu kuchelewa kwenu ndio tunafanya hizi.
Kama kuna awareness, because tusingoje kitu ifanyike ndio tukuje tupeane hizi mawaidha. If you could be coming in advance and just creating that awareness, inaweza kuwa vizuri sana.
Indeed, quite some consolation for a story. We're taking a short break here on Friday night. When you come back, we have more stories including this.
Ilikuwa wanataka simu. So mimi kuuliza simu yangu mnachukua wapi? Ndio huyu wa mbele akanigonga panga, I think. Aligonga panga hapa. Kidogo hivi kuangalia nyuma, huyu wa nyuma na yeye akanidunga visu kwa mguu.
Fear in parts of Kisii. Crime gang behind killing of one person spreads fear among locals. Details after the break.
Welcome back. Police in Kisii town have launched a manhunt for a notorious gang of youth suspected to be behind a wave of brutal crime that has claimed the life of one young man and left several others with life-threatening machete and knife injuries, mostly to the face and head. During the holiday season, the gang has been spotted roaming around the town and its environs using a motorcycle with no registration number. And as our reporter Crispin Otieno now reports, residents of Kisii have been urged to report any encounter with the gang or share any information that could lead to the arrest of the suspects.
For the past 2 weeks, a cloud of fear and anxiety has hung over Kisii town and surrounding neighborhoods. Report about the existence of a violent youth gang first emerged on social media before residents began confirming that the threat was real and unfolding right in their midst. We took it upon ourselves to dig deeper and establish the truth behind these disturbing claims. These images tell a painful story. They show some of the young men who narrowly escaped death at the hands of the gang. Deep machete cuts, stab wounds and severe injuries are visible on their heads and bodies. One young man has been confirmed dead following these vicious attacks in Jogo area. One of the victims of the gang, whose face we have concealed for security reasons, recounts his ordeal after coming face to face with the criminals near Daraja Moja.
So after tumekaribia kufika the new governor's office, we saw some guys, like kulikuwa na commotion, so kumbe ilikuwa vijana, they were like around 4, walikuwa wanapiga vijana wengine wawili. Tukajaribu kurudi huko nyuma mahali walikuwa tukikimbia. Unfortunately wakapanda pikipiki, ilikuwa hapo boxer ya black, iko na number plate ya white but haijaandikwa any number.
In Upper Hill, Egesa on the outskirts of Kisii town, Residents say the area becomes a no-go zone from as early as 7 p.m. For many years, Kisii County has been known as a haven of peace, but with the emerging gangs within the town center, that status is slowly fading away. And here where we are is at Upper Hill within Kisii municipality, where we are here to meet a youth who escaped death by a whisker. We want to talk to him to share his ordeal. What did he see? And did he manage to know the criminals? Walk with me. Faminas Ongera, a 23-year-old youth, says he is lucky to be alive. The gang attacked him, slashed him with a machete, and stabbed him several times before he lost consciousness. The Kisii Polytechnic graduate was left with severe injuries to his head and thighs. His body is still wrapped in bandages.
Hata biashara yetu tunafunga mapema saa moja, tumesumbuka hapa. Yaani watu wanachinjwa kama ng'ombe, mtu anatoka kazi saa moja, badala aende kwake amekatwa.
Mmoja alikuwa na panga, mwingine alikuwa na rungu na kisu. So walikuwa wanataka simu. So mimi kuuliza simu yangu mnachukua wapi? Ndio huyu wa mbele akanigonga panga, I think. Aligonga panga hapa. Kidogo hivi kuangalia nyuma, huyu wa nyuma na yeye akanitunga visu kwa mguu.
In Nyanchwa, the situation is just as dire. The residents claiming they have been attacked even near a police station.
Vile mmoja alikuwa nyuma au wawili walikuwa wametangulia. So kustukia hivi ndio nimepata huyu mmoja amenishika kwa singo, nikapiga nduru. Lakini kupiga nduru watu ambao wako hapa Nyanchwa walidhani maybe ni watu ambao wako kwa hii msimu wa Christmas wanaendelea kusherehekea.
Some of the most affected areas are Nyanchwa, Egesa, Jogoo, Upper Hill, Musocho, Gekomu, Capital Roundabout, Mwembe, Daraja Moja, and Daraja Mbili. Security agencies have confirmed that investigations are ongoing, urging members of the public to make formal report to aid the arrest of the suspects.
I would want all those victims who have suffered such attacks to make reports so that we can initiate investigations to find out who are involved, where and when.
For now, residents can only wait and hope that police will move with speed to arrest the youths who continue to put countless lives at risk. Crispino, TNO Citizen TV, Kisii.
A 34-year-old woman is receiving treatment at the Nakuru County Referral Hospital after she was shot by a police officer in Tangitano, Gilgil, Nakuru on Thursday night. Lucy Njoroge is recuperating at the facility after sustaining 3 gunshot wounds to the chest and thighs. The officer, who is believed to have shot her, Corporal Collins Kochei, then committed suicide. Police reports indicate that Corporal Kochei, attached to Munanda Police Station in Gilgil, used an AK-47 rifle to commit the crime. The motive behind the attack remains unclear. Kochei's body has been preserved at the Nakuru County Referral Hospital morgue. And a middle-aged man has been arrested in connection with the death of a 20-year-old man in Dunduri, Bahati, Nakuru County on New Year's Eve. The arrest came hours after residents of Dunduri held demonstrations lighting bonfires along the Nakuru-Olkalau Road on Thursday night to protest the killing of Hosea Kariuki, who was stabbed. Witness reports indicate that the 20-year-old Kariuki was in the company of his friends on Wednesday night when he was attacked. Residents are raising the alarm over the rising insecurity cases.
Vile ambavyo kijana wetu ambaye anaitwa Hosea alifariki, na hata kwa saizi hatujapata haki yoyote, na hata askari wenyewe hawajatuonyesha ati kuna shughuli ambazo wanafanya ili tuone ya kwamba yule mtu ambaye alimuua Hosea ametiwa mbaroni.
So tunaona
Kuna kitu wanafanya boys wa hapa hivi. Ili tu wafanywe tu reshuffle. Watolewe tu huku waende. Ndio tukue na insecurity, tukue na security.
Kenya tu ningeomba mkubwa wa security Murkomen jaribu kuangalia hapa mambo na security. Juu watu wanauawa ovyo ovyo na kudungwa na visu.
An unfortunate start to the year 2026. We're taking a short break here in studio, but we still have more, including this.
The decline of respect for human rights in the East African region. A reporter's account after this break.
Welcome back. It's now time for the continuing series by Citizen TV of My Year. 2025 was a year defined by an escalation in human rights abuses across the East African region. From abductions, torture and extrajudicial killings, citizens of Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania faced brutal repression for protesting against poor governance, supporting opposition movements or challenging incumbent leadership. Gatete Njoroge tracked several of these incidents and now shares his first-hand account and observations.
Once hailed as a beacon of democracy on the African continent, the East Africa region is now showing alarming signs of sliding into a hotspot of human rights abuses. If the events of 2025 are anything to go by, from anti-government crackdowns, abductions, and illegal detentions to the emergency of cross-border abductions, the region's democratic story is being dangerously rewritten. One story I followed for over 40 days, and which sharply illustrates the shrinking civic space, is the abduction, illegal detention, and eventual release of Kenyan activists Bob Njagi and Nicholas Oyo in Kampala, Uganda. It all began on October 1st at around 3:52 p.m. when I received a WhatsApp message from our news director Monica Kiragu. It was a forwarded alert. The sender claimed that Kenyan activist Bob Njagi had been abducted in Uganda at about 2:30 p.m. Attached to the message was a photograph of the petrol station where he was allegedly picked up. 14 minutes later, Monica shared the contact details of a key witness, a Kenyan national Kofi Atinda, who had traveled with Njagi to Uganda. I immediately called him. On the line, Atinda confirmed our worst fears. Bob Njagi and another activist and close associate, Nicholas Oyo, had been kidnapped. The three had left Kenya for Uganda on September 29th. Atinda maintained that the trip was strictly business-related. However, during the same period, they were also spotted attending campaign rallies of Uganda's opposition figure and NUP presidential candidate Bobi Wine, a move that likely drew the attention of intelligence operatives. They were intercepted by armed men at a petrol station in Kireka, Kampala.
People came out with guns, there were 4 of them. So there was also a lady who was seated in front.
Atinda narrowly escaped. He says he convinced the men to let him step out to secure their vehicle. The moment he did, the van sped off, leaving him stranded in an unfamiliar country. His immediate instinct was clear: alert the Kenyan media before the situation escalated. With a first-hand witness account and fully aware of the sensitivity of the story, I reached out to our editorial director, Linus Kaikai, for guidance. After reviewing the information available, he gave the green light. By 7 p.m., we were on air with the story.
Ameripotiwa kutekwa nyara jijini Kampala, Uganda.
Kenyan activists Bob Njagi and Nicholas Oyo were alleged.
At the time, I believed the publicity, coupled with the diplomatic ties between Kenya and Uganda, would lead to the activists' release within days. I was wrong. What followed was a story that dominated our newsroom diary for more than 40 days. The abduction of Bob Njagi and Nicholas Oyo in Kampala, Uganda.
Musalia Mudavadi has expressed frustration,
having submitted their petition to Uganda High Commission offices.
The Uganda High Court has dismissed a habeas corpus application.
Our news editors Yusuf Lakicha and Muraya Kariuki gave it top priority. Every morning, we regrouped to assess developments and determine the next steps. Central to our coverage was maintaining constant contact with the families.
Our mind keeps going to what about if he's not found?
A daily check-in that became as important as the story itself. I was constantly in touch with human rights activists. They dedicated their time and resources to securing their release.
Free Bob, free Nick. Free Bob, free Nick.
From covering press conferences and attending prayer services to meeting officials at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and even organizing demonstrations, nothing was left to chance.
We are here at the entrance. We are not going home. We are not relenting until Bob Njagi and Nicholas Oyo are released immediately by the abductors.
Political leaders also joined the clarion call, condemning their abduction and demanding for their release.
How is one William Ruto, the head of the Jumuiya, yet he allows his citizens to be mistreated by other heads of state? It means he is colluding.
This story opened the door to a strong network of credible contacts in Uganda. I stayed closely connected with two lawyers who moved swiftly to file a habeas corpus application, seeking to compel Uganda's security agencies to produce the two. At the time, activists and journalists on the ground generously shared leads, documents, and first-hand material that helped keep the story alive and moving forward. Then came the 38th day. At exactly 1:25 a.m., while at home, I came across a statement on X from the Principal Secretary for Foreign Affairs, Korir Sing'oei, posted earlier at 9:54 p.m. It carried a quiet hint of hope. A few hours later, when I woke up at around 6 a.m., our WhatsApp groups were buzzing. The news had finally broken. They had been released. A photo soon followed, showing them alongside Kenya's High Commissioner to Uganda, Joash Maangi. My colleague Jane Cherotich later covered their return to Kenya at the Busia border. From there, the two were flown from Kisumu to Nairobi, where family and friends awaited them, marking the end of a long and anxious chapter.
38 days of abduction was not easy. We didn't think we were going to come out alive. We are traumatized, but we are happy to be home. I'm happy to be here. There are things I might have taken for granted. Today I may not take them for granted.
As the duo celebrated their release, Uganda's strongman Yoweri Museveni confessed in a live televised interview that the two were being held in a fridge for the alleged offense of working with Bobi Wine as riot experts.
So we picked them up, and they have been in the fridge for some days.
The confession came as a shock, as Ugandan authorities had denied holding them before a Kampala High Court. 4 days later, after medical checkup, the two held a joint media briefing where they narrated their experience in the hands of Uganda's military.
I was removed from the cell, blindfolded, taken to a room, chained into a chair like this on one hand, one officer at the back, another officer in the front. The one in the front would hit me with blows. I was tied to something like this, and I was whipped severally.
Their painful ordeal can only be compared to that of their senior in the political activism space, presidential hopeful Boniface Mwangi and Uganda's activist Agatha Atuhaire. They were arrested in their hotel in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, where they had traveled to show solidarity with their friend and Tanzania's Chadema party leader, Tundu Lissu, who is facing treason.
I'm in Tanzania, Dar es Salaam, and there are officers outside my room.
On May 19, 2025, Boniface Mwangi went live on his social media pages from his hotel room in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. He informed the world his life was in danger, People who claimed to be armed police officers had camped outside his hotel room.
Identify yourselves! Identify yourselves!
In yet another clip, Mwangi was captured on camera telling unidentified men to identify themselves before arresting him. He was finally picked up. For 3 days, his whereabouts remained unknown until May 22nd. Mwangi was dumped in Ukunda by his abductors, while his colleague Uganda's activist Agatha Atuhaire was also dumped at the border of Uganda and Tanzania. They appeared physically disturbed following the ordeal, a story they shared 10 days later in an emotional media briefing.
They told me to strip naked, and I stripped naked.
They also ordered me to strip naked.
They filed a case at the East African Court of Justice 2 months later, seeking compensation and apologies from Tanzania, Uganda and Kenya. These stories brought back sad memories of the June 25, 2025 anniversary protests. On this day, Nairobi CBD was turned to a battle zone. Journalists were at the center of action when peaceful protests in honor of those killed during the 2024 anti-finance bill protest turned deadly. I was part of the team that was assigned to cover Nairobi CBD. I remember very well we started our coverage near Jivanji Gardens, where hundreds had gathered before marching along Moi Avenue Street. There were no police officers. As the rest of the team walked towards the National Archives area, a small group broke away at the junction of Moi Avenue and Kenyatta Avenue and started marching towards GPO. Police officers in 4 Land Cruisers intercepted the team. Seconds later, tear gas filled the air as they dispersed the crowd. We took cover, then emerged minutes later, only to find a large crowd of people near Nation Center. They were joined by Busia Senator Okia Omtata, and off the group marched towards GPO heading to State House. The police were ready for them. Within minutes, GPO was turned to a war zone. Together with my cameraman Hebron Kinyoda, we took cover at Huduma Center. Here, we got first-hand action. One incident that will remain etched on my mind is the attack on a lady police officer. We saw a group signaling police officers to go and rescue her. We followed behind only for one group of protesters to turn against the officers and started hurling stones. Everyone took off in different directions. I remember looking for a place to hide, only for some officers to follow me, and the crowd charged at us. Let me say I was saved by the microphone I was holding and a shirt that bore our brand name. Police deployed all manner of resources to deal with protesters. Tear gas, water cannons, batons. I also remember one protester, Ian Mwangi Maina, whom we captured on camera during the protests. He sustained gunshot wounds and was admitted at KNH. Maina, who talked to us from his hospital bed, was lucky to have survived. 19 people were killed on the same day, according to KNCHR records. For me, 2025 was a year that clearly showed that we are far from the democratic ideals we profess as a nation and a region. There is a lot of work that needs to be done to safeguard the freedoms enshrined in our constitution, and time is ripe for the leadership in East Africa region to embrace positive criticism and be more tolerant to divergent views. Gatete Njoroge, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
In sports, Nairobi United head coach Nicholas Muyoti is confident his side will put up a good show in their year opener away to Shabana FC at Kisii Stadium on Sunday afternoon. Muyoti says Nairobi United have overcome what he calls the post-break rust. They are looking sharp in training and are confident of challenging for maximum points away from home. At the same time, he says recent results, including a 1-0 win at Tusker FC and the end-result 1-0 draw with Gor Mahia have boosted the team's confidence. However, Nairobi United will be without the injured duo of Manzur Okwaro and defender Prince Burigea, who are still undergoing treatment.
After the break, I know the players are a bit rusty, but I know we've had time to prepare, and we've seen that our players are not rusty. I think from the coming up from the break, they're looking good, they're looking sharp. So we expect a tough one, and yeah, as always, we go for 3 points as much as possible.
Team Kenya's senior men's 10-kilometer World Cross Country Championships squad is brimming with confidence as it eyes a return to the top of the individual podium when the gun goes off at the Global Showpiece on January 10th in Florida. The last time Kenya celebrated an individual's men's World Cross Country gold was in 2017 in Kampala, Uganda, through Geoffrey Kamworor. Since then, the crown has slipped from Kenyan hands as Uganda's distance aces have stamped the authority on the world stage. Despite the prolonged drought, Kenya's camp remains upbeat, with coach Patrick Ivuti convinced that the current crop has both the pedigree and preparation to recapture the men's title. In the men's senior 10-kilometer race, 2023 10,000-meter silver medalist Daniel Benyo will spearhead Kenyan onslaught.
Na sisi tuko na imani na hii timu yetu. The training has been good, the cooperation has been good, and they have a very big and they have a very high. We have a high hopes in them, and they have focused.
Vile tunaenda Florida. Florida ni USA, na USA unajua kwa middle distance sio rahisi. Considering that hiyo inchi ni watu middle distance ni wazuri na huko ni kwao.
And the action of the New Year's Day has elicited a lot of conversations at a time that all the teams that participated in their fixtures split up points with their opponents. We're taking this is the end of the bulletin rather. Thank you so much for choosing Citizen TV. This has been Friday night. Up next is 10 over 10. My name is Sam Gichuku. See you again tomorrow. Bye for now.